Today I will explain you about the Java generic servlet. A Java generic servlet is a class available in javax.servlet package. So if you can see the architecture here, we have javax.servlet is a package. Under that we have one interface called servlet, and we have javax.servlet package. Under that we have servlet config. Now these two are interfaces. So you can see the yellow color is representing interface, and these two interfaces are holding some abstract methods. Now, whenever a class directly implements a particular interface, all the methods need to be implemented properly. Otherwise, it becomes an abstract class. So here you can see our servlet needs to implement this interface, because in servlets, whenever you write your own program, you need to compulsorily implement the servlet interface. But here the problem is all the methods may not be used for our application. So I require only few methods to be overridden. But if you directly implement all methods, if you like or not, you need to be implemented. So in order to overcome such problems, they are given a predefined class called generic servlet. Generic servlet. Now you can see the orange color is an abstract class. So both are abstract classes. Now this generic servlet is also available in javax.servlet package. Now this generic servlet is a generic protocol. Generic protocol based means any protocol we can use for this application, or this application can be used for any protocol application development. Okay, like FTP or HTTP or SMTP sort of thing, it can be used. So this particular class has already implemented these two interfaces. So I can see the dotted arrow implements, because the class can only implement the interface. So these two interfaces are already implemented by this class. But now when you talk about the browser, web-based applications, you can see HTTP protocol is a protocol which is being used worldwide. So by keeping that in mind, they have developed a separate class which is exclusively for HTTP protocol. This is for everyone, but this is only for HTTP servlet is only for HTTP protocol. So they have designed a separate sub package for that, like javax.servlet.http. This HTTP is a sub package in which HTTP servlet class is available. Now this class is extending generic servlet. That means HTTP servlet is a subclass, generic servlet is a superclass. Now this generic servlet is implementing these two interfaces. So I can say HTTP servlet is also implementing these two indirectly. Now coming to our program, that is our package, we can create our own package and we can write our own servlet program. So as I said, this particular program, what you're writing, need to be implementing the servlet interface either directly or indirectly. So based on our requirement, we can either extend HTTP servlet and override some certain methods, or you can directly extend generic servlet and override certain methods and you can do your task. So when you override either the classes, we can say that indirectly we're implementing servlet interface. So you can see extends is a solid arrow. So our program is extending HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet is extending generic servlet. Generic servlet is implementing these two interfaces. So I can say my program is also implementing the servlet interface. So this is about the servlet architecture and the hierarchy. Now coming to this generic servlet class. Generic servlet class implements the servlet and servlet config interfaces. So I was showing in the diagram. Now generic servlet could also be directly extended by a servlet. As I said, now HTTP servlet can extend generic servlet, although it's more common to increase a protocol specific subclass like HTTP servlet. So if you take our own program, you can write like public class, the class name, the user defined class name extends generic servlet directly, you can do. Otherwise, you can write public class name extends HTTP servlet, because HTTP servlet directly extends generic servlet. Okay, so either of the way you can do. Generic servlet makes writing servlets easier. It provides simple versions of the lifecycle methods like init method, destroy method, and of the methods within the servlet config interface. So we have the init method and destroy method. from the servlet interface. So init for initialization of the resources, like you can initialize some variables or some database connections, and destroy method should release the resources at the last. So these two methods can be worked out with the generic servlet, and few methods from the servlet config interface. Now, servlet interface, servlet config interface, and generic servlet class are available in Java servlet package. And for any sort of protocol, we can use the generic servlet class. Now, what are the limitations of generic servlet class? Now, it cannot provide HTTP features to user-defined servlets. For example, the session tracking, URL rating, cookies, etc. The session tracking mechanism is not available for generic servlet, whereas in HTTP, we do have these features. Now, a real-time website should have HTTP features because already Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and when you see the browser, mostly the browsers are using this protocol. So this sort of website which is supporting only HTTP, purely for HTTP features, sort of the real-time websites you need to develop. So that is a little bit problematic. Now, therefore, user-defined servlets should not inherit directly from generic servlets. So better go for HTTP servlet because we do a lot of methods for HTTP protocol. So suggestion is to go for HTTP servlet rather than generic servlet. Now coming to the methods of generic servlet class. So as I said, we have the init method for initialization, and this is the first method which is going to be executed as part of servlet lifecycle. Now it is a convenience method that can be overridden so that there's no need to call super.init method. So actually, if you want to call the superclass init method, we generally write super keyword super.init of you need to pass the configuration reference variable. So this method is basically used for the initialization of the variables as well as database connections or other initialization parameters where it can be executed only for one time, and that is the first method which has been executed. Now we have init method with servlet config as a parameter. So if you write the parameter like this, then obviously we need to call super.init method. Okay, if you write like this without any parameter, there is no need to call the superclass super.init method. But here when you write like this, we need to call. So it is called by the servlet container to indicate to a servlet that the servlet is being placed into service. So the initialization of the resource has been done. Now after initialization, we need to go for the service method, and now this is the most important method, where the service method is going to accept two parameters. One is servlet request and one is servlet response. If you can see, a servlet request is a predefined interface. Servlet response is also predefined interface. This REQ and RES is user defined values, which are called as reference variables for servlet request and servlet response. Because whenever you go for servlets, it is request and response oriented applications. So the service method is going to play the main role, which is used to accept the request and generate the response and give. So this service method is called multiple number of times. Now it is called by the servlet content to allow the servlet to respond to a request. So both we are doing request as well as response in the service method, and this method is called multiple number of times. Now we have a destroy method. It is called by the servlet container to indicate to a servlet that the servlet is being taken out of service. As we are doing initialization, we need to release the resource also at the end. So we need to apply the destroy method, and we need to release the resources. Now these three, init, service, and destroy, are considered as life cycle methods of a servlet, because when you go for servlets, we don't have any main method. And generally when you go for the normal Java applications, the execution starts from the main method. But here when you write your servlet program, we never write main method. Now when you don't write main method, there is a question like from where or which method is going to start your servlet execution. So init method is going to start the servlet execution. And when you write your application also, this init and destroy method is optional because it can be taken over by the superclass, whatever initialization and destroy logic has been already implemented from the superclass, no, that you can derive. But service method is most important what we need to write, because every request and response has been lying with the service method. Now in continuation, of the methods, we have get init parameter. Now here we are passing the name of the parameter. So it returns a string contain the value of the named initialization parameter or null if the parameter does not exist. So here you give the parameter name, its value to be extracted. Suppose if I give like int I equal to 10, and then you just, the parameter name need to be string. Okay, so that parameter name you write and its value get returned. Okay, suppose if I want to get the student name and the name is a parameter and you write here the name as an attribute, whatever the parameter name is, and its value should be written for me. Okay, if the whatever the value you are giving as a parameter here, it is not existing, that means the parameter name is not existing, then you return null value. Now get init parameter names. So if the servlet has no initialization parameters, it returns the names of the servlet's initialization parameters as an enumeration of string objects or an empty enumeration. So you want to get only the names of all the initialization parameters, then you can go for this one. And it returns all the names as an enumeration. Enumeration means what? Collection. Now get servlet config. Now it returns this servlet config object. Now the servlet config is nothing but an interface, and it basically works with the servlet configuration parameters, like how many clients we need to give the service, or what sort of test security you are trying to provide, or what sort of transactions it is going to hold, such sort of things. Configuration, or what should be the maximum pool size of the thread or database connections. So if you want to get the servlet configuration of the current servlet, then you can apply get servlet config method. Now it returns a reference to the servlet context in which this servlet is running. Now maybe we go with the Tomcat server. So which Tomcat server you are using, what sort of environment it is going to provide can be extracted by get servlet context. That means where your servlet is running. Now if I want to extract some additional information about your servlet, maybe you are writing a servlet to print hello world, or you're writing a servlet program to submit some data of the student details to the database. So it returns information about the servlet, such as the author, version, and copyright of the particular servlet. So you need to just mention some description about your servlet, and that description can be extracted by using get servlet info and returns a string value. Now if you want to get the servlet name, you can go for get servlet name. Now we have a log of string message. So what all you are trying to deploy into the Tomcat server is getting logged. Log means a cop. That means the transaction, whatever you have been doing, is been noted down into a text file. And here the parameter, it also string message. Now it writes the specified message to a servlet log file prepended by the servlet's name. So whatever the current scenario is going on, like you are trying to deploy into the servlet, or you have created a var file, you uploaded the var file to the servlet Tomcat, and everything is being noted down into this particular log file, and that particular transaction will be considered as a message. And every message you have the servlet's name also appended for that, so that I can identify. Now if any exception occurs, that also need to be noted down into the log file. Then you can go for this log with the string message and the exception object. So it writes an explanatory message and a stack trace for a given throwable exception to the servlet log file prepared by the servlet's name. So the servlet's name is noted down, and what type of exception has been occurred is also been noted down. Now this is the normal message without exception. Here this is with exception, where throwable is a supermost class for all exceptions. So these are few methods of generic servlet class. So this is information about the generic servlet class, its methods, and based on this idea, we can see the execution of a generic servlet in my next video. So I hope I have given some input on generic servlet class. And if you like this video, do comment, subscribe, and share it to your friends. Thank you.